In this video, I'm going to show you 50 persuasion mind tricks that you can use to make anyone buy from you. I've personally made over $50 million in sales for my clients using these persuasion mind tricks, and I use them in my own business to scale past $1 million in revenue. So I promise you, no matter what you're selling, once you know these mind tricks, you can persuade anyone to buy from you. Now, before I share these with you, I need you to promise me one thing. You have to use these mind tricks responsibly and for the benefit of others, not to manipulate people and cause them harm. Fair enough? Cool. So with that being said, get a pen and paper and let's dive into these mind tricks. Mind trick number one is appeal to status. So what's important to understand is humans primarily make buying decisions based on whether or not what you're selling them will increase their status. And here's what I mean. The reason someone buys a $300,000 Ferrari isn't because it's a nice car. The reason they buy a Ferrari is because it's a sign of success. They know by driving one, other people are going to view them as more powerful, wealthy, and successful, which increases their overall status. And Ferrari knows this. Like, if you watch any of their commercials, they don't communicate the features of the car. What they do is they show a rich guy in a suit driving it with a supermodel wife and strangers turning their head to look at the car, because that's why people buy a Ferrari, for that feeling of increased status. And the biggest luxury brands in the world worth hundreds of billions of dollars, they all know this. So to leverage status to make people buy from you, make sure you communicate to your customers how buying your product will increase their status among friends, family, and strangers. And you really want to describe in detail how your product will elevate their self-image and elevate how others are going to perceive them. And if you do this, your marketing will be a lot more persuasive as you're tapping into a very primal psychological trigger that determines if people buy or not. Mind trick number two is pre-framing. And what pre-framing is people make assumptions of the quality of your product based on what they see before you present it. For example, the reason I have a nice camera setup and a fancy background with awards behind me is so hopefully, before I even say a word, I pre-framed your mind to think, oh, this guy looks legit, so his content is probably going to be good as well, so I'll watch it. Compared to if I just shot this on my iPhone in my bedroom, it probably wouldn't have the same effect. My first impression wouldn't be as strong. So my point is, the pre-frame matters. To give you another example, let's say I'm a restaurant owner, and on the outside of my store, I have a sign that says I won 3 Michelin stars, I was voted the best restaurant in my city 5 years in a row, and if I did that before someone even walked in to try my food, they'll probably think this food is going to be really good, all because of the pre-frame that's set. That's how powerful this trigger is. So in your marketing, before you present your product, see how you can create a pre-frame that makes your audience assume what you're selling is good, which will increase their desire in buying it. And you can do this by leveraging your credibility through awards, testimonials, and having strong branding and content that resonates with your target market. Mind trick number three is perceived time to value. The faster people perceive they'll get the result your product promises, the more they want it. Speed sells. For example, Amazon spends hundreds of billions of dollars on supply chain and logistics just to make sure they can get a product shipped in 48 hours to customers. And the reason they do that is they know people value speed. That's why they have 230 million paying members who use Amazon Prime just to get 48 hours shipping. So to use perceived time to value to get more people to buy your stuff, mention how quickly your customers can start experiencing the results of your products. And a pro tip here is to play around with the different time intervals to see how you can present speed in the most attractive way possible to your customers. For example, if I'm selling a weight loss coaching program and I can get someone in shape in 3 months, instead of saying 3 months, I might say 90 days because that seems faster for most people. So the main point here is to make sure you mention the speed of results in your marketing and play around with the different time intervals to find the most attractive way to position it. And if you do this, more people will be persuaded to buy your stuff. Mind trick number four is the cost of inaction. And what cost of inaction is people change their behavior when the pain of staying the same outweighs the effort of making change. For example, think of someone struggling with weight loss their whole life who suddenly gets in shape. what usually happens is they have some big life-changing moment where they realize if they don't lose weight, they're not going to be able to see their grandkids or something big like that. And now for them, the cost of staying the same and potentially missing out on seeing their grandkids is way worse than the effort required to go to the gym and be on a diet, so they change their habits and they start getting healthy. So to use the cost of inaction to get people to buy, you don't want to just highlight the benefits about your product. You also want to emphasize the consequences of what happens to your prospect if they don't take action. So you want to expand on how things can continue to get worse for them and the downstream impacts of not solving the problem. And this is what causes the urgency for them to take action and change their situation and buy your product. Mind trick number 5 is repetition. The more you repeat something to someone, the more it sticks in their mind. For example, look at politicians. There's typically only one, maybe two core phrases that they repeat over and over that they want people to remember. For Donald Trump, that was "Make America Great Again." For Obama, it was "Yes, we can." And the more they repeated that phrase, the more it stuck in the mind of their potential voters. So to implement repetition to get more people to buy, make sure you repeatedly mention the core selling points and benefits about your product until it gets ingrained in your customers' brains. Because remember, the average customer takes over 21 touch points to make a purchase. So knowing that, we want to make sure every touch point we have with them reminds them about the best selling points about our product. So even if it seems repetitive to you, it's not repetitive to your customers, and they're the ones filling your wallet. Mind trick number 6 is reciprocity. And reciprocity, in my opinion, is the single most powerful persuasion trigger you can tap into to get people to buy. And what reciprocity is when someone gives something to us we find valuable, we immediately have the urge to give them something back. We can't help it. It's hardwired into our brain. For example, if one of your friends pays for your bill at the restaurant, you almost immediately feel in debt and that you need to take care of the next bill to even it out, right? So knowing this, here's the best way to leverage reciprocity to get people to buy your stuff. What you want to do is give away as much helpful free shit as possible to your target market. You can do this by posting helpful content to your audience that they find valuable, like what I'm doing right now, hopefully, or lead magnets and free services that help them overcome their biggest problems and obstacles. And what you want to do is give away so much free stuff that people literally feel uncomfortable with the amount of value that they receive from you. Because if you do this, people will naturally feel inclined to give you something back. And the way they do this is they start buying your stuff, referring you more customers, and giving you more money. Mind trick number 7 is the takeaway trigger. And what the takeaway trigger is if people have a desire to buy what you're selling, and there's a chance that they might not be able to have it, they want it even more. And I first discovered this on one of my sales calls. I remember I was on a call with the prospect who was kind of on the fence and taking a long time to make a decision. So I was getting frustrated and I told him, "Hey man, look, you don't need to do this. This probably isn't for you." And the moment I said that, he was like, no, man, I need to do this. And then he gave me his credit card and then he became a client. And I was super confused. I was like, what the fuck? Did I just discover a revolutionary new sales hack, or was that a complete fluke? So to confirm my theory, I tried this takeaway approach on my next call I had with the prospect who was kind of on the edge and giving me some objections. And sure enough, the next time I tried it and I told the prospect, "Hey man, you don't need to do this. I don't think this is for you," they reeled right back in and I was able to close the deal. And that's when I learned the moment you take something away from someone that they want, the more they want it, which is so powerful. So to use the takeaway trigger to get people to buy, don't be afraid to push away a prospect and tell them that they don't need to buy. Because the more you push them back, the more they get pulled into what you're selling because they don't want to miss out on the opportunity of having it. Mind trick number 8 is appeal to selfish desire. So people primarily care about themselves and what others can do to benefit them. That's not going to change. That's human nature. For example, when a new restaurant opens up in the area and they're having a grand opening, do you really think there's a line waiting outside to get in because they want to see the inside of the restaurant? Or is it because they want the free ice cream the restaurant promised as part of the grand opening? They're in line for the free ice cream. That's what's in it for them, and that's what they care about. And when you understand this, it becomes a lot easier to persuade people to buy your stuff because all you have to do is make sure your marketing and sales messages is all about them. So what you do is you highlight all the benefits your customers will receive using your products, all the pains it alleviates for them, and the status they gain by using your products. That's what gets them to buy. So make sure it's all about them and appeal to their selfish desires. Mind trick number 9 is conviction. People are drawn to others who speak with strong conviction. And the more conviction and belief someone has in what they're promoting, promoting, the more likely we are to trust and believe them. And if you want a great example of this, look at people who've built cult-like followings, like Donald Trump, Andrew Tate, or Elon Musk. These are all people who speak with such strong conviction around their belief and goals that people naturally rally behind them due to their level of certainty. And the more conviction and the more certainty someone has, the more persuasive they become. So to use conviction to drive more sales, make sure you increase your conviction throughout your marketing and sales process. Like if you have a sales team, you can do this by consistently sharing new testimonials and wins from customers to boost their conviction and belief in your product, making their sales calls more convincing. In your marketing and content, you can speak with conviction about your products, and you can back up your claims with concrete data, facts, and testimonials to back up your confidence. And if you do this, you'll be much more persuasive due to the increased conviction in what you're promoting. And if your conviction and belief is greater than your prospects, they'll buy into your frame and they'll be more interested in what you're selling. Mind trick number 10 is appeal to emotion and not logic. People don't make buying decisions based on logic. They make buying decisions emotionally first, and then they justify it with logic. For example, do you really think people buy a Lamborghini because of its horsepower and the engineering in the car? Fuck no. They buy it because owning a Lamborghini appeals to their emotions of feeling successful, powerful, and attractive. And then they justify it with logic, saying things like they've always wanted one, it keeps me more motivated, or some bullshit like that. So as a marketer, you must focus on communicating the emotional benefits your customers will experience from your products or services. And you can do this by highlighting the emotional benefits in your copy by showing how your products make your customers feel respected, successful, attractive, and other emotional benefits. You can also use words that spark emotions like imagine or experience or feel to help them paint a vivid picture in their mind of all the emotional benefits of your product or service. Again, the more emotion you can whip up in your customer's mind, the more they'll want what you're selling. All right, quick little break and we'll get right back to these mind tricks. But if you want to get the free notes that goes over all the mind tricks I'm covering so you can refer back to them later, as well as 20 plus free marketing courses and trainings I've used to generate tens of millions of dollars in sales, go to marketersplaybook.io. That's marketersplaybook.io, or go to the pinned comment below, and all you have to do is put in your email address and I'll send them your way all for free. Again, I'm going to send you all the notes of all of these mind tricks so you can refer back to them, and 20 plus free marketing courses and trainings. All you got to do is put in your email address at marketersplaybook.io. That's marketersplaybook.io. So go do that. And with that being said, let's get right back into these marketing mind tricks. Mind trick 11 is novelty, and this is a big one. So people are drawn to new things. They don't want a better version of what they've already tried or what they're currently doing. And if you try to sell someone something they've tried before or they've already heard of, it's very hard to get the sale. Now, on the flip side, if you present a new solution or a new way to solve their problem they haven't heard of before, and also justifies why everything in the past has failed for them, getting them to buy is incredibly easy. And I first learned this when I started my marketing agency. So when I first started my marketing agency, the main service I tried to sell clients was Facebook ads. Now, Facebook ads at the time was very saturated because lots of other agencies were offering Facebook ads. So whenever I got on a sales call and I pitched my service, prospects kept giving me the same objection, which is they tried Facebook ads before and it didn't work, so they weren't interested and I'd lose the sale. So to overcome this, what I did was, instead of just offering Facebook ads, I repositioned my offer to be a holistic solution where I would run their ads, build their funnel, and handle their email marketing, which I knew was a solution they haven't seen before. And then on my sales calls, I would tell clients the reason your ads aren't working right now is because you don't have a holistic marketing solution, and that's what I'll provide to you. And the moment I told them that, selling became easy because it was a new solution to their problem that they hadn't seen before, and they couldn't compare it to something they tried in the past. So to apply novelty in your marketing to get more people to buy, see how you can position what you're selling to be something new and unique that your market hasn't seen before. And if you can do this properly, and people can truly see that your product is something new that they haven't tried and justifies why everything in the past has failed for them, getting the sale becomes incredibly easy. Mind trick number 12 is price anchoring. And what price anchoring is when people see a very expensive option next to a cheaper one, the cheaper option looks like a bargain, even if it's still relatively expensive. For example, in my agency, our main offer was $20,000 for the whole year, and for people who couldn't afford that offer, we had a downsell for $2,500. And I thought the $2,500 deal was a no-brainer, but we kept getting a lot of price objections from prospects. So what I did to overcome this was I changed the way we pitched our downsell downsell by first using our $20,000 core offer as a price anchor. So the way we'd pitch it is I'd say, yep, so our core offer is $20,000 for our agency, and we typically get a percentage of sales. But don't worry, we're not going to charge you $20,000 for this. For this, it's only a one-time fee of $2,500 for the 6-week engagement. And by doing this and using our $20,000 core offer as a price anchor, the $2,500 engagement sounded like a steal. And when we did this, we dramatically reduced the amount of price objections we received, and we increased our overall closing rate. So to use price anchoring to get more people to buy, what you want to do in your sales process is before you mention the price, anchor it to something expensive that you've already created in your business, like a product or service. And if you don't have that right now, I'd highly recommend creating a very expensive product that you can use as a price anchor. And by doing this, once you reveal the price of the product you're pitching the prospect, the anchor will make it seem like a no-brainer, making it much easier for them to say yes and buy your product. Mind trick 13 is consistency. People want to be seen as consistent with the commitments they've made, especially in a public setting, because they don't want to be seen as a liar or someone that goes back on their word. And this is one of the most powerful persuasion triggers that you can tap into to get people to buy. So let me give you an example. Let's say I'm on a sales call and I'm selling a weight loss coaching program to an overweight father with a young daughter. And I say to the father, "You love your daughter, right?" And he replies by saying yes. And then I say, "And you want to be there to walk your daughter down the aisle when she gets married, right?" And the father says yes to that again. And then I reply with, "Okay, well, if that's true, you're going to need to get this coaching program so you have the best chance of making that happen, or else you might not be able to." And now at this point, it's almost impossible for that father to say no to me and not buy, because they want to remain consistent with the commitment they made of loving their daughter and being there to walk them down the aisle. Because if they say no to me at this point, they're pretty much saying they don't love their daughter, which is not going to happen. So you can see just how powerful this trigger of consistency is. So to use consistency to get people to buy your stuff in your marketing and sales process, ask questions that get your prospects to make commitments to you and their goals. Because once you got them to make a commitment and they've agreed to it, they'll do whatever they can to remain consistent with that commitment because they don't want to go back on their word. Mind trick 14 is social proof. And social proof is our tendency as humans to feel more comfortable trying something if we see other people have tried it successfully. We never want to be the first person to try something because that's too risky. Now, on the flip side, if we see lots of social proof and lots of people having success with something, it's much easier for us to take that same action. That's why when you buy a product online, what do you typically do? You probably see how many reviews that product has, and you read some of them until your brain's like, okay, this isn't risky, it's worked for other people, so I feel comfortable buying it too. And the more social proof there is, the easier it is for you to buy. So to use social proof to get more people to buy your stuff, you always want to make sure you showcase your testimonials and reviews of happy customers throughout your sales process. Because when you do this, more people are going to buy from you because they see other people are liking your stuff, making them more confident in their buying decision. Mind trick 15 is a common enemy, and nothing rallies people together like a common enemy. And what a common enemy is either a person, a group, or a thing that you frame as the bad guy in your marketing that you're trying to stop or overcome that your customers can rally behind. And a great example of this is Mr. Beast, the biggest YouTuber in the world, who grew his chocolate brand Feastables to over $500 million in sales in 36 months. And if you study his marketing campaigns, the common enemy that he rallies against is Hershey's and the old chocolate brands that currently own most of the shelf space. And he always mentions in his campaigns how Hershey's and these old chocolate brands are made from low quality ingredients and they taste like shit, while his brand Feastables is the good guy. It's made from simple ingredients and it tastes great. So now people are buying Feastables left and right because they want to help Mr. Beast save the chocolate industry from the bad guys, which is a lot more persuasive than just buying a chocolate bar. So to use a common enemy to get more people to buy from you, see if there's a person, a group, or an entity that you can position as the bad guy that you're fighting against that your target audience can rally behind. And if you do this right, it can be one of the most persuasive and powerful things you can do to get people to buy your products, as now they're not just buying your product, but they're taking a stand against a common enemy. Mind trick 16 is a future cause. And what a future cause is people naturally want to be part of a vision or a cause that's greater than themselves. And if people believe that by buying your product, they're part of a larger cause that aligns with their values, they're much more likely to buy. And a perfect example of this is how Elon Musk positions his companies to be part of a greater cause that rallies people together. For Tesla, his cause is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable transportation. So people who want to be part of that cause and save the world, they buy a Tesla. For SpaceX, the cause is to allow humans to be a multi-planetary species. So again, people who want to save humanity support SpaceX. And for Twitter, it's to protect free speech. So people who want to protect free speech stand behind Twitter. But you can see how he always positions his companies to have a cause or a mission that's greater than the company itself, and that's what rallies people together. They want to be part of that vision and that mission, so they buy into his product. Because now they're not just buying a Tesla, they're helping save the world by providing sustainable transportation. So in your marketing, have a clear vision or mission statement you believe in that's bigger than yourself that you can communicate to your customers that they can get behind. And if you do this properly, they'll buy your product to be part of joining your bigger vision, which is extremely persuasive. Mind trick 17 is the fear of missing out, or FOMO for short. And what FOMO is when people feel like they're about to miss out on an opportunity or a big trend, they act emotionally instead of logically, and they're in a state where they're very easy to persuade. And a great example of this was the dot-com bubble in 1997, where when the internet first came around, investors would invest in pretty much any internet-based startup at crazy valuations, regardless if the company was profitable or even a good business to begin with, purely because these investors didn't want to miss out on the internet boom. So you had all these investors acting purely out of emotion and not using any logic or common sense, making them extremely easy to persuade. And keep in mind, these were very smart investors, so FOMO works on just about anyone. Now, long story short, in 2002, the dot-com bubble crashed, and most of these investors lost their money due to giving crazy valuations to companies that weren't actually good companies, all because they got sucked into FOMO. So to leverage FOMO to get people to buy from you, you want to create a feeling of being behind the curve in your customer's mind. And you do this by showcasing how many customers have purchased your products recently, the testimonials you've received, or any big press releases that causes people to believe that your product is a big opportunity or trend that they shouldn't miss out on. For example, if I was selling a skincare product and I had an ad that says, "See why 23,000 women have started using our product to remove acne in the past 12 months, that triggers FOMO, and people in my market will be like, let me check it out because I don't want to miss out on this opportunity. So that's how you use FOMO to get people to buy. Mind trick 18 is a reason why. And what a reason why is people are much more likely to comply and do something if there's a reason behind it, even if the reason makes no sense at all. And a great example of this was the photocopier research study done at Harvard by Ellen Langer. And how the study worked is they tested 3 different requests to see which request worked best to cut in front of people waiting in line to use the photocopy machine. So the first request they tested had no reason why. They would ask people, "Excuse me, I have 5 pages to print, can I use the copying machine?" And surprisingly, 60% of people said yes to it. Now, the second request they tested included a reason why, but the reason why made no sense. So they would ask people, "Excuse me, I have 5 pages to print, can I use the printing machine because I have to make copies?" Now, 93% of people said yes to this request, even though it made no sense at all, which is crazy. Now, the third request had a reason why that made sense. So they asked people, "Excuse me, I have 5 pages to print, can I use the printing machine because I'm in a rush?" And 94% of people said yes to this, which is only a 1% increase. But as you can see, just by adding a reason why behind the request, even if it didn't make sense, compliance went from 60% to 93%, which is crazy. So to use a reason why to get more people to buy from your marketing, whenever you make a promotion, always include a reason why behind why you're doing this. Whether it's a holiday sale, a birthday sale, a thank you sale, whatever the reason, make sure customers know. Because when people understand the reason behind your promotion, you have far more people who are going to comply with it compared to a promotion with no reason behind it. And one pro tip here is if you have a promotion that worked well in the past, just rerun it with a different reason why, and I promise you it's probably going to work as well, if not better, than the last time you ran it. Mind trick number 19 is scarcity. And what scarcity is the less supply there is of something, the more people want it. And a great example of this is Ferrari. They purposely restrict their car production to make only 7,000 to 10,000 cars each year, which is well below the market demand for Ferraris. And they do this because they know that this creates more desire for people to buy their car because they know it's a scarce resource and a lot of people want it. That's why Ferraris are typically sold out a whole year in advance while being able to charge a premium because they always have more demand than supply. Yes, Ferrari can produce more cars, but they know that a key selling point to their cars is the scarcity element. So to use scarcity to get more people to buy, make sure you communicate the limited availability of your product or service. Like you probably can't take on unlimited clients, or you probably don't have unlimited stock right now. So make sure you communicate that to your audience so they know that. If you're a service-based business and you realistically can only take on 10 clients a month, mention that. If you're an e-commerce company and you only have 12,000 units to sell each year, mention that. By doing this, you now have scarcity in your favor and there's more desire to buy your product. Mind trick 20 is sense triggering. And what sense triggering is there's 5 core senses in the human body, which are sight, smell, sound, touch, and taste. And the more of these senses you can activate in your marketing when communicating the benefits of your product or service, the more persuasive your marketing and your sales process becomes. So let me give you an example if I was selling a skincare product. For sight, I might say, imagine waking up in the morning, glancing in the mirror, and seeing clear, radiant skin staring back at you. For smell, I might say, when you open the jar, you'll be greeted by a fresh, soothing, subtle aroma of lavender and tea tree oil that brings a sense of calm reassurance, knowing you're treating your skin with the best nature has to offer. For sound, I can say, hear the compliments pour in as friends and family notice your clear, glowing skin and ask for your secrets. For touch, I can mention, feel the confidence surge through you as you run your fingers over your face, no longer feeling rough patches and bumps of acne. And for taste, I might say, treat yourself to a luxurious dessert or a celebratory meal, knowing your skin is glowing and the last thing you have to worry about is hiding behind makeup. So by triggering these senses, it makes my selling points much more persuasive. So to use sense triggering to get people to buy, what you want to do is when you're communicating the benefits of your products and services, make sure that you have benefits that trigger sight, sound, smell, touch, and taste. And the more of these that you're able to trigger in your target customer's mind, the more persuasive what you're selling will be, increasing their desire to buy it. Mind trick 21 is authority. People naturally have more trust in a product if there's an authority figure promoting it. They subconsciously think if they're willing to put their reputation on the line for this, it must be legit, which reduces their skepticism. And I really experienced just how powerful authority is in terms of driving sales when I first started my marketing agency years ago. Because the biggest objection I kept getting from potential clients when I was brand new was, can you show me clients that you've worked with? And the reason I kept getting this objection is because I didn't have good testimonials and case studies at the time, so they were naturally skeptical. So what I decided to do is I started reaching out to hundreds of the biggest fitness influencers in my niche, because my niche was fitness coaches, offering to work for free with their marketing if they would give me a testimonial if they were happy with the results. Because my theory was, if I could just get one of these big guys to give me a good testimonial, I thought there's no way I would get another objection around, can you show me a case study? Because I would have a big authority figure as a testimonial. So long story short, I landed my first fitness client who had over 500,000 YouTube subscribers, and I worked with him for free, got him results, and he gave me a good testimonial. And this is where everything changed for me. Because once I had this testimonial and I started reaching out to prospects again, I immediately started getting meetings booked and clients from it, and I never had to deal with that objection again of who have you worked with in the past, because I had this big authority figure as a testimonial that everybody in my niche likely recognized. And that's when I really recognized the power of having a good authority figure in your marketing. So to leverage authority to get people to buy from you, see how you can either get testimonials or partnerships with influencers and respected figures in your industry and niche that customers are going to recognize. And these testimonials and partnerships are going to reduce skepticism and boost confidence in your product or service, which is going to result in more sales and revenue and conversions. I guarantee it. Mind trick 22 is a damaging admission. And what a damaging admission is if you admit your product faults up front, people trust you more because it shows honesty. And then when you follow up that fault with a positive benefit about your product, that benefit becomes a lot more believable. And a great example of this is Buckley's cough syrup, who launched their "It Tastes Awful But It Works" campaign. And if you've ever tried Buckley's before, you know it absolutely tastes like shit. But by admitting the bad taste up front, they gained the trust of the market. And when they said it worked, people believed them. And this campaign was so successful, it increased their market share by over 10% and made them the #1 cough syrup in their category. So to use the damaging admission to get more people to buy your stuff, you can strategically mention your product flaws and drawbacks up front, and then follow it up with your biggest benefits and selling points of your product. And it'll make those selling points a lot more believable and persuasive in your prospects' minds, leading them to buy your product. Mind trick 23 is relatability. And what relatability is people prefer to buy from others who share similar interests and traits as them. For example, if I was selling dog toys and I was targeting dog owners, I could have ads that say things like, dogs are way more fun to play with than cats, or I'd rather go to the park and play with my dog than go to the club on the weekends. And these statements instantly connect with dog owners, building trust with them and interest in my brand. So to use relatability to get more people to buy your stuff, you want to study your customers and market deeply. Understand their language, what interests they have, their problems, and their desires. And if you speak like them and you can relate to them, they become much more drawn into what you're selling because they relate to you. Mind trick 24 is the paradox of choice. And what the paradox of choice is the more choices we present people, the harder it is for them to make a decision. Now on the flip side, the less choices we present people, the easier it is for them to make a decision. And a great example of this is a grocery store tested offering 24 free samples of jam versus 6 free samples of jam. And what they noticed is with the 24 types of jam, 60% of shoppers were interested, but only 3% of them bought. Now with the 6 types of jams, 40% of shoppers were interested, but 30% of them bought. That is 6 times the orders simply by having less options, making it easier for people to decide. So to use the paradox of choice to get more people to buy your stuff, you want to present minimal buying options to your prospect. I'd recommend sticking to pitching 1 to a maximum of 3 options at a time. This will make it a lot easier for people to decide instead of being overwhelmed and confused. And a confused buyer does not buy. Remember that. Mind trick 25 is confirmation bias. And confirmation bias means people favor information that supports their existing views and they ignore information that contradicts them. For example, if someone's overweight, they might believe it's because of their genetics. Now the truth is, it's likely because they eat like shit and they don't move around much, but it doesn't matter. If they believe it's because of their genetics, that's where we need to meet them in our marketing. Because if we run an ad that says something like losing weight has nothing to do with your genetics, they probably won't read it because it goes against their existing viewpoints. Now, if we had an ad that says something like why your genetics are making it hard to lose weight, there's a much higher chance they'll read that ad because it confirms what they believe to be true. So to use confirmation bias to get people to buy from you, know the beliefs and informations your customers suspect to be the reasons behind their problems, and use that in your marketing messages to pull them in by confirming their suspicions. It's all about meeting their beliefs and views where they're at to gain their interest and then giving them what they need after they buy. Mind trick 26 is information framing. And what information framing is we draw different conclusions from the same information depending on how that information is presented. And here's what I mean. Let's say I'm selling a weight loss supplement. Which statement is more persuasive? Option number 1 is take the supplement and there's an 80% chance you'll lose weight. Or option number 2, which is take the supplement and there's a 20% chance you don't lose weight. Now, for most people, option number 1 is more persuasive because 80% of success sounds a lot better than 20% of failure, even though it's the exact same information, just framed differently. So to use information framing to get people to buy your stuff, make sure you frame your information in a way that's most appealing to your audience. So what you want to do is look at your information from different angles until you find the frame that resonates best, and by doing this, you'll get more people interested in what you're selling. Mind trick 27 is commitment. And what commitment is it's a lot easier to get someone to take a big action if they've made a series of smaller actions beforehand. For example, think about taking a quiz online. After you spend 5 minutes answering the questions, you're asked to enter your email address to get the quiz results, and you give them your email without hesitation because you've already invested time in the quiz. If the quiz asks for your email up front, you might not give it right away, or there'd be a lower chance. But after you spent 5 minutes doing that quiz, it's almost impossible for you not to give them your email. So to use commitment to get people to buy from you in your sales process, you want to identify the steps that require big commitments from your prospects and see if you can break that up into smaller steps for them to follow. This is going to reduce the overall friction and increase the chances of your prospects completing the entire sales process and turning into a customer. Mind trick 28 is urgency. The less time someone has to get something done, the faster they get it done. For example, think about school assignments. We procrastinate doing the assignment the whole fucking week, and then on the final day it's due, we get it all done so we don't miss the deadline, right? So as marketers, if we want to get someone to take action, like buying our product faster instead of procrastinating, we can trigger urgency by giving our customers time-based deadlines to speed up the sales cycle. And one of my favorite ways to do this is through something I call incentive cycling, where each week you add a special incentive to your offer, whether that's a bonus or a discount, and you make it available for a limited time, like a week before it expires. And this gives the customers a reason to act now and claim the bonus before it expires. Now here's the fun part. Next week, once that incentive ends, you just swap it out for a new incentive and make it available for a week, and you just keep repeating this cycle. So that way you always have an incentive that's available for a specific time period that pushes your customers to buy faster because it triggers their urgency. So all you have to do to implement this is just come up with 3 to 4 different bonuses or promotions and just keep rotating them every single week. This will boost your overall conversions because you're giving customers a reason to act quickly and you're tapping into their urgency. Mind trick 29 is anticipation. The more anticipation people have for something, the more they want it. And if you know how to create anticipation in your marketing, you can create a buying frenzy. And a great example of this is Supreme, which is a clothing brand worth over $500 million. Their whole strategy is they launch a new clothing drop every Thursday at 11 a.m. And that's your only chance to get that drop before it sells out. Now, before the launch, they show teasers of the collection on social media to build up anticipation. And their fans wait all week until the collection drops. And the moment the clock hits 11 a.m. on Thursday, all this pressure that's built up from the anticipation explodes and their collection sells out in minutes. I think their fastest collection sold out in like 11 seconds, which is absolutely crazy. So to use anticipation to get people to buy, whenever you're launching a product, involve your audience throughout the process and give them teasers of what's in the works to build anticipation and hype. And you want to think of it like you're building this pressure cooker of anticipation with your audience, so the moment it goes live, it just explodes and this buying frenzy occurs. Mind trick 30 is ease of use. So people are lazy. We're hardwired to conserve our energy for survival. So the less energy we believe we have to put into something to experience its benefits, the more we want it. And a great example of this is people often spend $5,000 on liposuction instead of a $30 gym membership to get in shape. And the reason behind that is liposuction only takes a few hours to remove fat, while a gym membership, you're required to go to the gym every single week, do workouts, and eat healthy, go to sleep on time, and that takes way more effort. And what's funny is it's way harder to convince someone to buy a $30 gym membership than sell a $5,000 liposuction procedure, simply due to the fact that the ease of use is so much easier on liposuction to get the end outcome, which is to lose fat. And because of that, people are willing to spend over 100x the price to get it done. So to leverage ease of use to get people to buy your stuff, in your marketing, emphasize how little effort and sacrifice is needed to experience your product benefits. The easier it is for your product to use, the easier it is to sell, and you can charge significantly more for it. Mind trick 31 is the Ikea effect. And what the Ikea effect is people value a product or service more if they put effort into creating it. For example, Ikea capitalized on this psychological trigger by selling furniture to customers that they had to assemble themselves. And once customers built the furniture themselves, they felt a sense of pride in themselves, making the furniture more valuable to them, which is really interesting. So here's how we can use the Ikea effect to get more people to buy. What you want to do is keep your customers engaged and involved with what you're doing in your business and your plans. For example, if you're about to launch a new product, send polls and surveys to get feedback from your customers on what designs they prefer on the product or what they want included in it. Because that way, when the product goes live and you launch it, they'll want to buy it even more because they felt they were part of the creation process. So that's how you use the Ikea effect to make more sales. Mind trick 32 is the power of free. People love free stuff. It's not up for debate. If we see something for free, it's gonna catch our attention. And if your free stuff is good, getting people to buy your paid stuff becomes a piece of cake. That's why free samples at grocery stores works so well. Someone gets a free sample of cheese, and if they like it, they get the full cheese slab because the free sample shows its value and it triggers reciprocity in customers' minds, leading to the purchase. So to leverage the power of free to get people to buy, give away as much free stuff as possible to your target market and make your free stuff better than most people's paid stuff. And you can do this by posting free content on social media that provides value to your target market, or by giving away free lead magnets and services to your target market. The key to this is to make your free stuff as good as possible. Don't hold anything back. The better your free stuff is, the more people will want your paid stuff. Because one, reciprocity is going to be triggered, so they want to even things out with you. And number two, they'll think if your free stuff is this good, your paid stuff is going to be unreal. So that's how you use free to make more sales. Mind trick 33 is intention. One of the biggest factors that determines whether or not we buy something, especially on a higher level product that's not impulse driven, is the intention of the seller. For example, have you ever been on a sales call and you were talking with the sales rep and you could just smell their commission breath and how the only thing they cared about was making the sale? What does that do? It repels you from buying. You sniff it out. Like, humans are extremely good at sniffing out bad intentions because we need to for survival. So to use intention to make more sales, make sure in your marketing and sales process, your intention is to fully serve your customer and do what's best for them. Because if people sense that your intention is to do what's genuinely best for them and your intentions are pure, people are going to have more trust in you, which increases the likelihood they'll buy from you. Mind trick 34 is friction. The more obstacles or hurdles someone has to go through to complete an action, the less likely they are to complete the action. Now, on the flip side of that, if there's very little obstacles or hurdles for someone to complete an action, they're much more likely to complete the action. And a really good example of this is, have you ever been about to buy a product online, and when you hit the add to cart button, it asks you to create another account and fill out all these fields? If that's happened to you, what ends up happening? You click off because there's too much friction. You don't want to create another account. Now, if you compare that to something like Amazon, they make sure there's as little friction as possible to buy. They have things like one-click purchase where you literally tap one button and your product arrives the next day. And the reason they built that is because they know the less friction there is, the more conversions they're going to get. So if you want to get more people to buy in your marketing and sales process, reduce the friction required to get the action you want them to take. You can do this by getting rid of any pages, fields, or steps in your funnel and sales process that don't need to be there and are not essential for completing the purchase. Again, the less friction there is in your sales process, the easier it is for them to go through it and complete the desired action we want them to take. Mind trick 35 is zero risk bias. And what the zero risk bias is people prefer choosing options that have no risk to them, even if it's not the best option for them to choose. And the reason behind this is it's human nature. Our brains are hardwired to put us in situations where there's minimal risk to increase our chances of survival. So knowing this, here's how we can use the zero risk bias to get more people to buy. You want to make sure your product or service eliminates most, if not all, the risk for your customers to purchase. And you can do this by having a strong guarantee in place that if they don't like the product for whatever reason, they can get their money back and have nothing to lose. And if you do this, you're going to drive more sales as there's minimal risk for customers to buy. Mind trick 36 is justify failures. When people fail, their default response is to justify why it's not their fault. They immediately shift responsibility onto something else that's not themselves. That's human nature. So if you want to immediately be more persuasive, you want to justify any past failures your prospects have made instead of confronting them about their failures. For example, let's say I'm selling a weight loss product. In my ad copy, I can justify their failures by saying things like, it's not your fault you're overweight. Losing weight is hard. And by justifying their failures like that, the reader immediately opens up because they feel understood and then becomes much more likely to build an interest in what I'm selling because I'm meeting them where they're at. So to use this to make more money and get people to buy, always justify your customers' past failures and point out how it's not their fault. That's what pulls them in. And if you question them or confront them about their past failures, they'll immediately be on the defense and lose interest in what you're selling, and you won't be given the opportunity to sell them something that can genuinely change their life for the better. So tell them what they want and then give them what they need. Mind trick 37 is specificity. The more precise and specific a statement is, the more persuasive and believable it is in someone's mind. For example, let's compare 3 different headlines, and I want you to pick the one you feel is most persuasive and believable. So headline number 1 is discover the secret to flawless skin with our acne removal cream. Headline number 2 is how to dramatically reduce your acne in a week with our proven solution. And headline number 3 is how to clear 98% of your acne in just 7 days with our advanced formula. Now, for most of you watching this, it was likely option 3 because the claim was specific. It said 98% of acne in 7 days with our advanced formula, compared to something that was vague like option number 1 that just says discover the secret to flawless skin. So to use specificity to get more people to buy in your marketing, whenever you make any claims or promises, make them as specific as possible. This will make them a lot more believable and persuasive in your target customers' minds, resulting in more sales. Mind trick 38 is personalization. The more personalized something is to someone, the more they value it. And this is a huge insight that Nurofen, a big pharmaceutical company, used to blow up their sales. And this is genius. What they found out is 9 out of 10 consumers wanted to see their specific symptom, like a headache for example, on the packaging of the product. So at the time, they had general Nurofen, which they were selling for like $4. But what they did is they started creating targeted pain Nurofen for specific symptoms, like Nurofen cold and flu, which they sold for double the price at $8. But here's the funny thing. The general Nurofen and the targeted pain Nurofen have the same active ingredients. It's pretty much an identical product, just a different message to make it more congruent, and because of that, they were able to pay double the price just from that small adjustment. Customers were willing to pay double the price just because it had their symptom on the label, even though it was the same ingredients. Like, I hope that makes sense to show how powerful this strategy is. So to leverage personalization to get people to buy your product, make your marketing and sales message as personalized as possible for your target market and the problems your product solves. The more personalized your message is, the more it's going to resonate, increasing the perceived value of your product, allowing you to charge more and get more conversions. Mind trick 39 is curiosity. Humans are naturally curious, so when something piques our curiosity, we need to find out more about it. For example, Netflix series, they use curiosity to keep you glued to the screen. Like, each episode ends on a cliffhanger, making you want to see what happens next, and that's what pulls you in to watch the next episode. And they just keep repeating this cycle of curiosity until next thing you know, you've binged the entire TV series in a single day. So as marketers, we can leverage curiosity to guide our prospects to go through our sales process effortlessly. And you can do this by creating really intriguing headlines in your content or your emails that compel your audience to click. You can use cliffhangers and open loops in your content that keep people engaged and wanting more. And you can show teasers for your products that you're launching, and all these little things will engage curiosity in your prospects' minds, making them more compelled to go through your sales process and turn into a customer. Mind trick 40 is in-group bias. And what in-group bias is people prefer to interact and trust others who belong to the same group as them or share similar interests. For example, if I'm selling fitness equipment or supplements to gym enthusiasts and I use terms like reps or squats or gains, I'm using the same language that my group of gym enthusiasts are already using. This shows them that I understand their world and I'm part of their group and tribe, making them much more likely to trust and buy from me. So here's how you can use in-group bias to get people to buy your stuff. First thing you need to do is learn the lingo of your market. Know what language they use, what phrases, terms, and memes are going around in your market that they would recognize. Next, once you know the lingo of your market, in your ads, your emails, and your sales pages, incorporate the words, phrases, and references that they would recognize. And if you do this right, this makes them feel like you're one of them, and you'll build instant rapport with them, making them much more likely to buy your stuff. Mind trick 41 is the proportionality bias. And what the proportionality bias is people assume that big events have big causes. For example, when Apple's iOS 14 update came out in 2020, a lot of businesses noticed drops in their Facebook ad performance. And most of these business owners put all of the blame on the iOS 14 update as the issue. And this was a great time for ad agencies because businesses were in a hyper buying state for almost 2 years, where they were looking for solutions to get the best results from their ads post iOS 14 update. So if you ran a Facebook ad targeting business owners, saying how you could get them better results after the iOS update, you would get more demand in clients than you could handle. And this is all because of the proportionality bias. So to use the proportionality bias to get people to buy your stuff, keep an eye on the big events that matter to your audience, like new industry rules, rules or major tech updates. And when something significant happens, people assume it's going to have a big impact on them. So what you want to do is start creating content and ads that address their concerns around these big events, and then you want to offer your services as the solution to help them overcome and thrive during these times. And if you do this right, you can really capitalize on a big trend and wave and make a shit ton of sales and money. Mind trick 42 is loss aversion. And what loss aversion is it's more painful for someone to lose something than to gain something. For example, for most people, the pain of losing $100 is far greater than the joy of finding $100. And the reason behind that is it's a survival instinct in humans where we're literally wired to avoid loss. Because back in the day, like if you lost resources like food, shelter, or a mate, you'd be fucked. Like you'd not be able to survive and reproduce. So our brains are always prioritizing not losing resources compared to gaining resources. So here's how we can use loss aversion to get people to buy. If we know it's more painful for someone to lose something than gain something, we need to make sure we structure our offers in a way where it's impossible for our customers to lose. And by far, the best way to do this is by having a strong money-back guarantee to reduce the perceived risk of what you're selling. Because if your customers believe they have nothing to lose by trying out your product, now you have the power of loss aversion on your side because they know deep down inside they have nothing to lose, which will increase the likelihood of them buying your stuff. Mind trick 43 is decision justification. If you can make people justify why buying your product is a good decision, it'll increase their compliance in buying it. For example, when I was selling my marketing services to business owners, I added this simple sentence structure at the end of my pitch that helped me close a lot more deals that I learned from Jeremy Miner, who's probably the best sales trainer in the world. So here's how it goes. After I presented my pitch to the prospect, this is what I would say. I'd say, does that whole structure and process make sense to you at a high level? And I'd wait for them to say yes. Then I'd say, do you feel like this could possibly be the answer for you in terms of getting more sales or whatever problem they told me they had on the call? And I'd wait for them to say yes to that. And this was the killing part. Then I'd say, okay, which part specifically? Like, what do you think would be of most benefit to you in terms of getting more sales? And this question was so powerful because this got them to justify why they wanted to work with me and why buying my product was a good idea. This is what really closed the deal. And then after they responded to that, I would simply say, great, I don't have much else to go over. If you feel like it's appropriate, we can go over the next steps to get you signed up. And because they justified this beforehand, it increased their compliance in signing up and saying yes to that last question of signing up. And this was a big game changer for me. So to use decision justification to make more people buy, in your marketing and sales process, add scripting and languaging to get your prospects to justify why buying your product is a good decision in their mind. So in a sales call, you can use a similar structure that I went over, but if you're writing a sales page, you can do this in written form. At the end of your sales letter, you can transition by saying something like, if you've made it this far, you're probably ready to lose weight, and you know that this is what you need to do to get the body of your dreams. So here's the next steps to order the product. And bang, just like that, I've got them to justify the purchase in their mind, and they're primed to buy the product. So that's how you use decision justification to get people to buy. Mind trick 44 is decoy pricing. And what decoy pricing is when you lay out your product pricing in a way that makes buying your product with the best margins and profitability for your business seem like a no-brainer for most consumers. For example, let's say you're selling lemonade and you really want people to buy your large lemonade for $7 because it's the most profitable option. You might lay out your pricing options where you have a small option for $2, a medium option for $6, and your large option for $7. And the whole job of your medium option is to act as a decoy to make getting your large option for $7 a no-brainer because it's only $1 more and it seems like the best deal. So here's how you can use decoy pricing to get people to buy. You want to arrange your product offerings so that the option with the highest profit margin is priced slightly higher than the decoy option and has significantly more value compared to the decoy. And if you do this, it'll become the obvious choice in consumers' minds and you'll get far more people buying your product compared to other options. Mind trick 45 is leading. And what leading is if you want more people to take a specific action, you must clearly lead them on how to do it. And here's what I mean. Let's say I'm writing copy for a sales page where the goal is to get someone to buy my product. My call to action in my copy must lead them by the hand and clearly explain how they need to buy my product. So here's what my call to action might look like. It'll say, if you want to try out this product, here's what to do next. click the order button below and you'll immediately be taken to a secure checkout page. And on that checkout page, you can enter in your billing and payment information and then hit submit. And after hitting submit, your order will be processed and will send you a shipping tracking number to your email. So hit the order button below to begin the process. So you can see I'm leading my reader and walking them step by step on how to buy the product. This makes it very easy for them to understand, increasing their compliance in completing that action compared to if I had a vague call to action that made it unclear. So to implement leading to get more people to buy, make sure in your marketing and sales process, you lead and walk people through the call to action you want them to take. If you don't do this, you're gonna get far less conversions because people might end up being confused on how to complete that step. So make sure you're as specific as possible with your call to action and you walk them through the action you want them to take. And by doing this, you'll drive far more conversions. Mind trick 46 is problem depth. And what problem depth is if you can describe someone's problem better than they can themselves, they'll automatically assume you have the solution. For example, I was on a sales call once to learn about a coaching program for business owners to help them level up their mindset and productivity. And I remember I was on a call with the sales rep and he was able to express the problems I had in ways I never was able to put into words before, and how my problems were impacting my life and my teammates' lives. And because he demonstrated such knowledge of my problem, I felt he knew my problem better than I did, so I assumed he had the solution and I ended up buying the coaching program. So here's how to use problem depth to get people to buy your stuff. What you want to do is create something called a problem web. And what a problem web is you write down all the problems your product solves for your customers and all the consequences that problem creates on your customers' lives. For example, if I sell a weight loss coaching program, one of the problems customers face is being overweight. Now, the consequences of being overweight is things like lack of confidence, not being able to go to the beach with your shirt off, or being attractive to the opposite sex. And I'd list them all out for every single problem my customers face until I know my customer's problem better than they do themselves. And once I have this problem web created, you can use it in your marketing copy and sales pitches to articulate your customers' problems better than they can themselves. And if you do this properly, they'll assume you have the solution, resulting in them buying. Mind trick 47 is believability. And what believability is if you make a statement that sounds too good to be true and you don't have evidence to back it up, people won't believe you and they'll lose interest in what you're selling. For example, if I was selling you an acne removal cream and I told you that this acne removal cream will clear 98% of your acne in 72 hours, the first thing your mind would think is prove it, right? Because without evidence to back up that claim, it's very hard for you to believe. And if I don't provide you proof after making that claim, you won't believe me and you'll lose interest. Now, on the flip side, if after I made that claim, I then said we did a recent clinical trial involving 200 participants with varying degrees of acne and 98% of them experienced significant reduction in acne in 72 hours, now that claim's a lot more believable, making you more interested in the product I'm selling because I actually have proof to back up that statement. So to use believability to get more people to buy, make sure any claims or any promises you make in your marketing or sales messages have proof to back them up. And you can provide proof by using things like testimonials, data, clinical trials, or even endorsements from credible sources. Whatever you use, just make sure you have proof to make your claims more believable and persuasive. Mind trick 48 is higher price equals higher value. So the more expensive something is, the better we think it is. For example, there was a research study where they had 3 bottles of wine. They had a cheap wine, a middle-priced wine, and an expensive wine. And then they had people try out the wine, and almost everyone said the expensive wine was the one that tasted best. But the funny thing was, all 3 wines were the exact same. So this proves that people perceive things that are more expensive to be better or higher quality. So here's how to use this trigger to make more money. Don't be afraid to raise your prices and have a price that's seen as more premium in your market. Because if your price is higher than your competition, people will internally think there must be something different going on here that makes your product more valuable to justify that price, and that builds more desire and allure in the product that you're selling. Mind trick 49 is praise. People crave praise and recognition for their accomplishments. If you give someone the right dose of praise, they'll open up to you and be more interested in what you're selling. And I really first discovered this on one of my sales calls, which is really funny. I remember I was on a call with a very successful business owner trying to pitch him my marketing services. And whenever I tried to take him through my sales script and process, he just wasn't giving me much to work with, giving me really short answers, so I was running out of ideas. So I basically said, fuck it, and I just completely went off script. And I said, dude, like, how are you able to build such a successful company in a competitive industry? Like, that's super impressive. And immediately when I asked that, this guy started opening up to me, and he proceeded to talk to me for like an hour straight about his life story and his business. And then at the end of the call, he was like, thanks, Tisu, like, you really get me, man. I really want to work with you. And then he ended up becoming a client, which was really funny because I didn't say a fucking word for like an hour straight. He just wouldn't shut up about his business. But after that, with that little bit of praise, he built a liking to me and he felt understood because most people don't get nearly enough praise in their life. So here's how to use praise to get people to buy. Genuinely acknowledge your prospects' achievements. Don't be afraid on your sales calls and your marketing messages to kiss their ass a little bit and highlight their success and strengths. Again, people love praise and they don't get nearly enough of it. So if you give them the right dose, you'll pull them in and they'll develop a deeper liking to you and your product subconsciously. Mind trick 50 is identity. People act in accordance with their identity. And one of the most powerful things you can do is give your customers an identity to step into that aligns with your brand vision and makes them more likely to continue buying from you. For example, ClickFunnels, Russell Brunson's 9-figure software company, the identity he gives his customers is funnel hackers. It's an identity that his customers step into, and once they step into that identity, they become diehard fans of ClickFunnels and the mission that they have. And what's really cool is whenever Russell launches a new product, he mentions how it's for his funnel hackers, and they end up all buying because they're bought into that identity. So here's how to use identity to get people to buy. Create a really cool name for an identity for your customers that they can call themselves that aligns with your brand vision and their values, and make it simple and easy to remember. And if you do this properly, people who identify with this identity will be your biggest supporters and continue to buy from you over and over again. All right, so that is the end of the 50 persuasion mind tricks you can use to get anyone to buy. Again, if you want to get the free notes that goes along with this video so you can refer back to all of these mind tricks to get more sales, as well as 20 plus free marketing courses and trainings, go to marketersplaybook.io. That's marketersplaybook.io. Just put in your email address and I'll send it all your way 100% free. Again, that's marketersplaybook.io, or the pinned comment below. Put in your email and I'll send it your way. Apart from that, I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.